Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to do something a little painful.
Okay.
I want you to mentally visualize your bank account. Go on. Picture the app on your phone. Now imagine the biggest numbers on that statement just vanishing.
Vanishing how?
No rent payment, no mortgage, no electric bill, no water bill, no grocery costs, no car payments.
It sounds like a fantasy, doesn't it?
It sounds like paradise. I mean, we spend our entire adult lives stressed about the cost of living. If my boss came in right now and said, hey, we'll cover all of that, plus we'll cook your meals, clean your hallways, and bus you to work, I wouldn't just say yes.
Huh. What would you do?
I'd ask, where do I sign? And do you need a kidney?
You and probably 90% of the workforce, it is the ultimate perk, total financial security.
Exactly. So when I saw the research we're covering today, a dissertation by a researcher named Sylvia Olah, I went in expecting a story about luxury.
Right.
I expected a story about people living the high life. But that is not where this goes, is it?
Not even close. You described a dream, but Ola's research suggests that for the people actually living it, this dream can psychologically morph into a very specific kind of developmental nightmare.
That is a heavy pivot. I'm still stuck on the free rent part, so you're going to have to work hard to convince me this is a bad thing.
Challenge accepted. We're doing a deep dive into Ola's work titled A Phenomenological Examination of Experiences Living in Employee Accommodation in the United Arab Emirates, an age-inappropriate environment.
A bit of a mouthful.
It is, but we're exploring a concept called infantilization, essentially how corporate housing might be inadvertently turning competent professional adults back into children.
Okay, infantilization. It's a big word. But before we unpack how a company turns you into a kidult, we have a quick shout-out for the people who actually sent this topic our way.
Yes, if you enjoy having your worldview flipped upside down, kind of like we're about to do with this housing topic, you really need to be following the Contrarian HR on Substack and YouTube.
I've been reading them for a while now. They don't just do the standard how to write a resume stuff. They publish, hundreds of articles and cover hundreds of topics related to the world of work?
Exactly. If you are tired of the standard corporate jargon and want to hear people urging you to think differently and challenge the norm, the Contrarian HR is where you want to be.
Go follow them. The link is in the notes. All right, let's go to the UAE. Set the scene for us.
Okay.
When people hear migrant workers and accommodation, they often assume the worst illegal labor camps, terrible conditions. Is that what we are looking at here?
No, and that distinction is vital for this entire discussion. Ola's research focuses on the hospitality sector, so hotels, resorts, and specifically on accommodation that meets all legal standards.
So the air conditioning works.
The air conditioning works, the buildings are clean, the food is safe and nutritious.
So Maslow's bottom tier is covered. Physiological needs, food, shelter, safety, all checked off.
Precisely. And that is what makes Ola's research so interesting. She argues that because the company handles the physiological needs so perfectly, they have completely neglected or even damaged the psychological needs.
Oh, okay.
She explores this through the lens of infantilization theory, referencing research by Levy going back to, I think, 1943.
So define infantilization for us in this context. It's not just baby talk, right?
No, it's a behavioral pattern where an authority figure treats a competent adult as if they're a child. And crucially, it aims, whether intentionally or not, to preserve a state of ignorance, incompetence, and dependence.
It breaches boundaries to dominate.
Exactly. Ola draws a really powerful parallel in her work between these employee accommodations and what the sociologist Irving Goffman called total institutions.
Total institutions. That sounds ominous, like a prison.
Well, yes. Goffman used that term to describe places like prisons, asylums, or military barracks. Places where a large number of situated individuals cut off from the wider society lead an enclosed, formally administered life.
That is a stark comparison. Comparing a hotel worker's dorm to an asylum.
It's about destruction of control. In both settings, you're surrounded by strangers, you're under constant supervision, your schedule is regulated by an authority, and the boundaries between work, play, and sleep all collapse into one location.
Right.
And Ola actually has a unique lens on this. She mentions in her reflexivity statement, basically where she explains her own bias, that she grew up in an institutional care setting herself.
I saw that. That's fascinating. So she isn't just an academic looking in. She recognizes these patterns of control from her own childhood.
She does. She mentions that this environment creates kidults, adults who have regressed. And this brings us to the first major finding of her research, which really challenges your free rent is a dream idea. It's the concept of the employer as the guardian.
Okay, let's dig into this. Because if my employer pays my rent, They are taking care of me.
Hmm.
Why is guardian a bad label?
Because when the employer becomes the guardian, the employee ceases to be an independent adult. The participants in the study reported that they expect the employer to solve everything.
Give me an example.
Personal disputes. If you have a roommate who, I don't know, leaves the lights on or chews too loudly, what do you do?
I'd talk to them. We'd figure it out.
In these accommodations, you don't. You call HR. If you don't like the food being served, you don't cook something else, you complain to HR.
So you outsource your conflict resolution skills.
You do. You stop acting like a peer and start acting like a dependent. And because the employer accepts this role of guardian, they feel entitled to discipline the workers like children.
Ah, and this is where we get to the name and shame finding.
Yes.
I read this part 3 times because I couldn't believe it was real. I thought maybe I misunderstood the text.
Oh, it's very real. Participants reported that HR or accommodation managers would conduct room inspections.
Which, okay, if it's company property, I guess I get checking for damage. I've had landlords inspect apartments.
But they weren't just checking for damage. They were grading cleanliness. And they would take photos of the dirty rooms, someone's unmade bed, or clothes on the floor, and project them onto a big screen at the monthly staff gatherings.
No way. Like a grade school assembly. Look at Sarah's dirty laundry.
Exactly like that, a public shaming ritual. And conversely, they would give an award to the person with the cleanest room.
That is the definition of treating someone like a child.
Oh.
Gold star for Timmy, he put his toys away. These are grown men and women.
They're hospitality professionals. But here's the part that really validates the infantilization theory, and this is what will really blow your mind. How do you think the workers reacted?
I'd be furious. I'd be filing a grievance. I'd be flipping tables.
You'd think so. But the researcher found that while the employees were embarrassed, they often supported it.
What?
They'd say things like, well, some people are dirty, so we need the managers to do this.
Wow. So they accepted the dynamic. They accepted that they couldn't be trusted to clean their own rooms without a parent watching.
That is the Stockholm syndrome of corporate housing. They had accepted that they needed a parent to discipline them, and the research lists a whole inventory of these parent-like controls.
Like what?
Confiscation of items is a big one. Kettles, microwaves, candles, items deemed dangerous are just taken away.
It's like childproofing a house for a toddler.
Exactly. No, don't touch the hot kettle. And then there are the rules regarding social lives. Alcohol is banned in the accommodation, even if the resident has a government license to drink.
Okay.
There's strict gender segregation. Men often aren't allowed in female areas, or there are strict curfews.
It sounds like a strict boarding school. But the thing that popped up in the interviews constantly was this phrase, I have to ask permission.
That was the universal refrain. I have to ask permission. Participants said they had to ask permission to move furniture,
Okay.
permission to have a visitor, permission to celebrate a birthday.
Permission to celebrate a birthday. You have to ask your boss if you can eat cake.
If you want to use the common area, yes. Even permission regarding their sleep schedules. The psychological result of this is profound. It creates an automatic response where the adult checks with authority before doing anything outside the routine.
You stop trusting your own judgment. You're conditioned to seek approval for basic existence.
Exactly. And this leads perfectly into the next segment of the findings, which Ola calls the student lifestyle or the dorm mentality. Because if you treat people like kids...
They start acting like kids. And this brings us back to my free rent dream. Ola calls this regressed responsibilities.
The participants compared their lives to university dorms or sleepovers. They described it as a headache-free life, no bills, no maintenance, no rent.
Which again sounds seductive. Who actually wants to pay a water bill?
Well, nobody enjoys the act of paying. But the analysis here is that there is a heavy cost to free. When you remove the burden of responsibility, you also remove the capability for responsibility.
It leads to what she called a diminished sense of resource management.
Yes. There was that one example about the air conditioning that I found really telling.
The AC.
One participant admitted leaving the AC on 2047 full blast, specifically because they don't pay the bill. They explicitly said, I wouldn't do this outside because of the money. But inside the accommodation, the connection between action and consequence is broken.
It breaks the feedback loop. In the real world, if I leave the AC on, I get punished by a huge bill at the end of the month. I learn a lesson.
Here, there is no lesson. And it's not just the AC. There was a story about spilled coffee that really summed up the kidult mindset for me.
This was the one in the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah.
A participant mentioned that if they saw spilled coffee in a public area, they wouldn't clean it up.
It just
They would call
See,
housekeeping in.
that's where the infantilization hits hard. A functioning adult sees a mess and thinks, I should wipe that up so no one slips. A child thinks someone else will fix this.
Precisely. The mindset becomes, I am not responsible for my environment. The parents will fix it. And the research highlights that this creates a workforce that is comfortable but functionally incompetent in daily adult tasks.
Comfortable but incompetent. That is a scary phrase.
It is. Some participants admitted they wouldn't even know how to get to work if the company bus didn't show up.
Seriously.
They don't know the public transport system. They don't know how to call a taxi. They are completely tethered to the employer's infrastructure.
So they are comfortable, but they are captive. You literally can't leave because you don't know how the world works anymore. And that captivity extends to their personal space, too.
Let's talk about privacy because the findings here were uncomfortable.
Systematic invasion is the term used. The most common policy reported was the open door policy.
Which means what it sounds like.
It means employers or security staff can enter rooms without knocking and without the tenant being present.
Imagine coming home and realizing your boss was in your bedroom while you were out, just looking around. It creates a sense of perpetual surveillance. One female employee reported harassment by a staff member who would enter her room daily without a valid reason.
And the power dynamic there is just awful.
It's completely skewed. Employer, as guardian, reporting this becomes very, very difficult. And even without the staff entering, there's issue of bathrooms.
Right, the shared en-suite bathrooms or having to walk through public corridors to shower.
Yes. It removes the ability to have backstage behavior where you can just be yourself. You are always on.
That is the goldfish bowl effect. And because there is no privacy, everyone knows everything. The research talks about a toxic gossip culture.
When you live with your coworkers, your personal life and your professional reputation just merge. Participants reported changing their behavior, hiding casual clothes under an abaya so people wouldn't judge their outfit,
Wow.
refusing rides home from male friends to avoid rumors.
That sounds exhausting. You're never really off the clock. It's like being in a performance review 24/7.
It leads to what Ola calls social isolation. And there are two layers to this. First, there's community isolation.
Because they're bussed every minute.
Exactly. They're bussed from the accommodation to work and back. They don't know the city. They don't integrate. They exist in a bubble.
And the second layer.
Personal isolation. This is the sad irony. They are surrounded by people, roommates, colleagues, but they are incredibly lonely.
How does that work?
To protect their privacy, they withdraw. They put on headphones, they stay in their bunks, they avoid the common areas.
It's a defense mechanism. If I stay in my bunk with my headphones, I can pretend I have my own space.
Exactly. But this leads to a stagnation of social skills and personal growth. You aren't navigating the complexities of the real world, you're just enduring the bubble.
So let's zoom out. We have adults being treated like children, acting like children, living in a bubble of surveillance and permission slips. Why does this matter? What is the so what here? Because from a business perspective, if the workers are showing up on time, who cares?
Ola connects this back to self-determination theory. It's a psychological framework that says humans need three things to thrive: autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
And this environment seems to crush all three.
It starves them. You have no autonomy, you need permission for cake. You have no competence, you aren't allowed to fix your own problems. And your relatedness is warped by gossip and lack of privacy. When these needs are starved, motivation drops.
And well-being.
Well-being drops. And the paradox is that these companies probably want high-performing, resilient staff.
That is the great contradiction, isn't it?
It is. Employers want leaders. They want staff who can solve problems, take initiative, and be resilient. But they are creating environments that foster dependency, passivity, and obedience.
You can't have it both ways.
You cannot infantilize someone 16 hours a day and expect them to be a dynamic leader for the other 8 hours.
That is a massive point. You are training them to be helpless. And the research touches on something seemingly practical. What happens if the company stops providing housing?
This is the readiness to leave finding. Business leaders in the region are discussing stopping this housing model to save money shifting to a housing allowance instead.
Yeah.
But the research shows the workforce is not ready.
They've been institutionalized.
They have. Most participants admitted they have no clue how to rent an apartment, set up a utility account, or navigate the city. They have been infantilized to the point where independence feels like an insurmountable burden.
So the system, which was arguably designed with good intentions to
Yes.
keep people safe and fed, has actually stunted their growth.
That is the conclusion. It's an age-inappropriate environment. It creates age-regressive behavior.
This research is such an eye-opener. It really makes you rethink the value of those boring adult responsibilities.
Mm.
Paying a bill isn't just a chore, it's an act of autonomy.
It is the price of freedom.
So to recap today's deep dive, we explored how corporate housing, by taking care of too much, can accidentally turn organizations into corporate kindergartens.
Mm.
We saw how the employer becomes the parent, how privacy evaporates, and how skills for independent living just atrophy.
It is a cautionary tale about the balance between care and control.
Now, if this topic fascinated you as much as it did us, and you want to understand the full depth of this, you are in luck. As a result of this specific research, Sylvia Ola published a book titled The Corporate Kindergarten.
It's a fantastic resource. We strongly urge you to buy it. We have included the link to the book on Amazon in the show notes below.
Absolutely. If you are in HR or management or just interested in organizational psychology, buy the book. It's essentially a guide to avoiding situations where organizations turn grown adults into kids.
Right.
You don't want to be running a daycare when you think you're running a business.
And one last reminder to follow the Contrarian HR on Substack and YouTube. They're the ones digging up these kinds of counterintuitive takes on the workplace every single week.
Do it. They are great.
Before we go, here is a final thought to chew on.
Let's hear it.
We often complain about the cost of living, the rent, the groceries, the commute. We dream of that headache-free life we talked about at the start. But consider the alternative we discussed today. If your employer pays for your lunch, your ride, and your rent, are they really just your boss? Or have they become your parent? And what is the real price you pay for that free lunch?
Something to think about next time you pay that electric bill. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. See you next time.